Hello, Victoria.
Hey, Jerry. Sorry I'm a little late. I was just shoving food in my face.
So was I.
Yeah, I know. I left the chicken in the oven. I hope it doesn't burn. I'll have to run down.
Oh, God. I hope it doesn't either.
Yeah.
For which it stands,
One nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
We'll get better at that too as we go along. Town clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Williver. Is he
Uh-oh,
here?
is Dan not on yet?
I don't see him yet.
Okay. Councilman Corbin.
Here.
Councilman McCarthy.
Here.
Supervisor Cusey.
Here.
When Councilman Williver comes in, I'll note that.
Thank you.
The deputy town supervisor, Victoria, is here.
I'm sorry, Victoria. Sorry.
Okay, while we're waiting, not that we're waiting, but until Dan gets here, I'd like to make a couple of announcements. The first one is that the agenda changed a half hour ago. Number 3 on the agenda under old business will not take place. The second announcement I want to make is I've been asked by several people if the deputy supervisor, Victoria Mazzetti, is still part of the town government. And I tell everybody delightfully, yes, she is. She's just had some change in assignments. And oh dear.
Oh, he lost.
Oh, yes. Is Carol Barnett in the audience?
I am.
Would you like to make your presentation about the wonderful town cleanup?
I would. This is Carol Barnett. I live at 117 Lyons Road, and I'm also secretary of the Rush Recreation and Park Association. And I wanted to report that we conducted or organized the town cleanup this year. Now, the town cleanup goes back many years, but the Rush Recreation and Park Association has organized it for the last 3 years. This being our 3rd year, it was, of course, it had to take place under different circumstances because of the virus. So we asked people to clean up near their home or any place that they felt safe and comfortable doing so. Most people chose to do a strip of road near where they lived. And I'm happy to report that at least 30 people participated. Those are the ones who reported to us. We think there may have been other people who, who did some cleanup near their home and didn't go so far as to report. So I want to thank everybody for participating and for publicizing this. Thank the town board and the town clerk and all for putting the word out, for endorsing this and putting the word out. And special thanks to Highway Superintendent Mark David. He let us keep open the highway complex on the last, I should say, I asked people to clean up over a period of 8 days from April 17th through the 25th. And Mark David let us keep open the highway complex on the 25th all day so people could go back and use that dumpster. And I believe it was well used. There was at least one person who, they had some trash that truthfully, it would cost you to dispose of. There were some TVs dropped off and things like that. So the town was very good and took care of that for us. And Mark David let us in. The highway department was engaged in their brush pickup for that whole week. So it may be that there were, and people knew that. So maybe that some people went in and used the dumpster during the weekdays preceding that. But anyway, we had a great event. We did the best we could, and I think did as much good as ever. And there's what we hope is a really nice report with lots of fun photographs that the town board and clerk were good enough to post on the town's website. So please go to, I believe, the news and notices section, and you can read about, there's some really nice entries, and including a nice cleaned up, a photograph of a nice cleaned up section of along the creek near Veterans Park. So thanks.
Thank you, Carol. Now we're
And
going to go
Councilman-
into the public. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to say that Councilman Williver has
Yep.
entered into the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Now we're going to go into the public comment section. Before we do, I want to remind everybody that you can say whatever you want. You're not going to get a response from the board. And I expect everyone to be civil in their comments, even though they're allowed to say what they want. Be civil about it, be diplomatic about it, be mature about it, and have at it. Thank you.
All right, we have 3 people so far. So the first one is Timothy Lane at 5 points, then Phyllis Wickerham at Biondo Court, Carl Ost, Woodruff. Did I get it right? Have I memorized all your addresses?
You did. Yes, ma'am.
All right, let me find, let Tim, I'll unmute you and start your video, and then Phyllis, you're after that.
Perfect.
And after Phyllis is Carl.
Okay, good evening. My name's Tim Lane. I live on 5 Points Road. The first point I wanted to make this evening was in regards to the supervisor's appointment of a deputy supervisor and the request for compensation, which, by the way, town law states he had a legal right to do. Last meeting's arrogant, clearly staged good old boys attack wasn't very well orchestrated. I won't get into specific details, but they know who they are and what they read. Other than their speaker in the first open forum, the majority of the shaming took place after the issue had already been decided, which was addressed under old business that evening. Where was the opposition 4 months ago? A lot of work had been done since January 2nd without much resistance. Nothing but positives had been heard from residents. Other than a few of the town board members and their remarks, no one has had a problem with the work being done till compensation was mentioned. If some say it was so morally or ethically or legally wrong, why didn't the town hired attorney step in and stop it? He was aware of it from the beginning. My second point, as town board representatives, you are all here to represent the people, should be held accountable and explain your decisions when questioned, whether it be through a phone call or email or during the second meeting's public forum. And as I said a few meetings ago, an appointment didn't look likely for the open seat this year, and I'm pretty sure now it's even less likely to happen since the result of the last meeting's negative lashings and outbursts. And finally, again, I still see this town's future heading in a good direction. So why don't we all take advantage of each other's strengths and skills and not ponder on each other's weaknesses? I'm sure you'll find more good gets accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Phyllis, then Carl, then John Morelli.
Are you ready? Okay. Phyllis Wickerham, 105 Biondo Court. I'm asking about the town's reopening plan. Now that the Finger Lakes region has been cleared to open certain areas of service, including town government and the court systems, knowing that the governor has asked everyone, whether it be a business or a government entity, to put a reopening plan together. That is my question is, will you be posting the plan on the website to the residents so that we know what the protocols are if they come into the town hall for services, what the protocols will be expected for the town employees, knowing that these plans have to be in place. I'm just wondering when we might be able to see them on the website. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Carl, there you are.
100 Woodruff Road. Just want to make 2 points tonight. First, I'm glad to see the library roof RFP is on the agenda. And I understand that there are currently, talked at the last meeting, there are 2 disparate quotes that we were using as a basis. So I hope we can finalize that scope of work tonight and agree to an RFP that can be advertised to receive 3 bids based on price, experience, and references. I think it's time. And I guess, has it really been 15 years that this leaking roof? If that's the case, that means that 1 year after the refurbishment of the town hall was done, it has started leaking. So I think it needs to be addressed, and I hope that everyone can come together and get it done. Second thing I want to talk about was the Tier 3 solar projects. With the passage of the Accelerated Renewable Growth and Community Benefit Act, the Article 10 process has really been short-circuited. And so the state now has the ability to dictate the project and the findings regardless of local input and local code. And as noted in the last meeting during the public comment period, I believe it was indicated that the project Horseshoe would be inevitable. So in that case, on the website for Horseshoe, they're currently still proposing 199 acres of buildable area, which exceeds the 150 acres in our current solar code. Therefore, given this information, I believe that Forefront and Helios project should be put on hold until Horseshoe, the scope of work or is finalized and determine what that's going to impact the town. So I asked the town board to really consider putting those 2 projects on hold, because without that, we could end up with 350 acres of solar, which far exceeds our solar code. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. John Morelli, you're up, and I don't see anyone after John Morelli.
Hello, this is John Morelli. I live at 535 Five Points Road. In the carefully crafted words presented by those who gave testimony at our last town board meeting, I must also declare that specifically regarding these testimonies, the testimonies that were made, I cannot sit on the sidelines or be quiet anymore. Not that I've been quiet about many things, but about this. While one of the speakers at our last meeting certainly has spent more time in state service than I have, and should be able to better assess the extent to which our town has any say regarding its future, I believe he was wrong in declaring that the town has no decision-making authority, and in fact, never did, and that the new Article 23 overrides all local government. I believe that this town of ours and many others will fight for our state constitutional right to home rule. I believe we might lose a little, but it is inconceivable to me that we will lose it all. I believe that this is America, and that Americans still have a say in how we are governed. I've served in the military and I fought for this right. And I know that many other Rush citizens will stand alongside me, as well as other citizens across the state. So this may be out there as a potential threat, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen without the American people having some say, because if they do and they lose, then it's not America anymore. And for this gentleman's information, I did not charge Councilman Woolever with betraying the trust of the citizens because he disagrees with me in supporting industrial scale replacement of agricultural land in Rush. I charged him because he stood openly against it until he had successfully secured the election. And then he turned against the majority of the Rush citizens who elected him and who oppose it. And in response to comments by a former town justice, yes, there have been many appointments to the town board and to other positions that should have been filled by elections. He was saying, what's the problem? Let's just do this. The fact that some take this as for granted reveals the depth to which our political process has sunk. In fact, there have been 10 appointments instead of elections over the last dozen years, many conveniently following an end-of-term resignation by a preceding official. In fact, appointed officials have served for 11 years, a full-time person for 11 years out of the last 12, appointed, not elective, not elected. There have been appointments not only to the town council, but also to the court, including the initial appointment of the gentleman who commented on the commonality of this process. Regarding one of the last speakers who did not introduce himself, yet charged that the town supervisor pay out of his own pocket for the contributions of our deputy supervisor, I'm simply confused as to his real motive. I want to thank you. I'll also send a copy of this to the town clerk so it could be accurately reported. I noticed some things are more accurately reported than others, so I will send this in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. And I think that is it. Last call for open forum.
No more open forums. Okay, we will move on to the approval of minutes. And I'd like to call your attention to the minutes of April 13th, 2020. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll
I
second
make a
that.
motion to approve the April 13th Rush Town Board minutes. It was a special meeting, okay?
Yes, I second that.
Is that, I'm sorry, it's hard to hear. Is that Councilwoman Corbin that moved and then
Yes,
Supervisor seconded?
yes.
Thank you. Councilman Williver. He's muted.
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin. Councilwoman Corbin.
Aye.
Councilwoman
Aye.
Supervisor Cusi. I'm not hearing everybody, so
Did you call Councilwoman McCarthy?
yes. She's
Okay,
on
then I didn't hear you. Then I
She's
say
on-
aye.
Okay.
All right, moving
I
on,
don't-
we,
Jerry, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't think anyone's, what's Rita's husband's name? Tim?
Yeah,
There you go.
I'm here. Rita's
Hi.
in the pose right now. Hi. Sorry. She's gonna have to be off the call. There's something going on. We gotta get off. I'm
Okay.
sorry. All right.
Thank you.
oh dear.
Okay.
Attorney Mancuso,
Yes.
given the absence of Councilwoman McCarthy, can we legally and responsibly proceed?
Yes, you still have a quorum of the board of 3, and so you still can conduct business. Whether there's any business that you feel should be conducted in the absence of the board member is completely up to the members of the board that are present.
Thank you. I call your attention to the April 22nd, 2020 minutes. They are incomplete, so we will not ask for approval of them tonight. There is no transfer of funds, and Councilwoman Corbin will approve the abstract.
Pam, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Be it resolved that having audited all the claims against the funds listed on abstract number 5-1 dated May 12th, 2020 for vouchers number 2020-834 through 2024-35 be approved for payment in the amount of $30,104.74.
I'll second
Can
it.
I have a second?
I'll second
No
it.
one sees me.
Councilwoman Corbin? Councilwoman Corbin?
Aye.
Councilman Williver?
Aye.
Aye.
Supervisor
I'm
Cusey?
frozen.
Aye. We have no correspondence. I imagine that's because of the coronavirus. We
Not
usually
just
get,
me with a bad internet, huh?
Mhm.
we usually get a couple, 3 pieces, but there is none. So we're going to move on to the reports of officers and committees. Councilman Woolliver.
I attended the fire commissioners meeting. That's my
Did you
report.
want to announce your new assignment at 1911?
I will be taking over the 1911 committee. Hope to set up a
Thank
meeting
you.
soon.
Thank you. Councilwoman Corbin.
Hopefully everyone can hear me. I will be attending our first Zoom planning board meeting on May 19th. The information is on the town website. It is open, obviously, to the public. I've attended 3 webinars in the past 2 weeks. One on battery storage, large scale, one on land use moratoriums, and one on the open meetings law. And as far as an update on the Tier 3 solar energy systems, some are on the agenda and some will be discussed at that point.
Thank you. Can we move on to old
And that's
business?
it for me.
Number 1 is Pat Stevens and
Patricia, is that you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
you're on deck, Pat.
Okay, we're just here to do an official resolution that the pavilion permit, the changes that have been made have been accepted to the town board, so we can move forth and change the permit to the official one that has been sent. Sounds kind of rhetorical what I just said, but
I
We
need to
don't
make a
need-
motion to accept the new pavilion rental permit.
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Corbin?
Can Town clerk, before, can we just make sure we add that it's the revised 4/26/20 version? 'Cause I know there were a few running around.
Yeah, Amber, we're gonna get rid of the old ones because it does seem to have a problem with resurfacing.
I believe I have the correct one, but I,
Right, so that's why if we could just add to the motion,
revised April 26, 2020
down
version.
here it says 4/26.
Yeah, 426.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keeping in mind, it will take a little while to implement because there's still some out there floating around. So we still will honor the old ones until we can get all the new ones put on the website and put in the books and everything. So there may be
Okay.
a time period where we're using both of them, but it's only because there'll be some left over that people were using. We have the old ones in the book right now, so,
Okay.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Councilman Wilver,
Aye.
Supervisor QC.
Aye,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you. We're going to move on to number 2, the library roof repair RFP. I know earlier we heard comment made about that library roof being in less than desirable condition for the past 15 years. And I think it's time that we get it fixed. We've done a lot of studies on that. And I think we've got a good plan to go out for a request for a proposal. Anyone like to comment on that subject matter?
I just was wondering on the scope
It
of the
was
work.
very lengthy.
Dan, I'm listening.
On the scope of the work, we're talking about putting metal just on the front side facing East Henrietta Road, and then the north side, and not the other,
Yes.
not the third side.
Yes,
Okay, I was just curious. That's where we're going.
the reasons for that were because we do want a metal roof. That's just one more point of insurance, if you will, against it leaking. Although we believe that the understructure is what the cause of the leaking is, but we thought we would put a ribbed metal roof on it just as a last resort to make sure it doesn't leak. And if you look at the front of the building from Route 15A, the metal roof, and I'm going to ask the librarian and the town board to pick out the color that you want. If you look at the front of the building from Route 15A, a metal roof would look pretty good on there. And the
Agree.
metal roof on the north would look pretty good. If you look from the back parking lot, it might not blend in as well.
But isn't there some trouble with some leakage over that office or that meeting room in the back? Water had been getting in there like the last year, I believe. Where the TV's mounted on the wall, wasn't there a problem?
Yes, there is a
Ah.
problem with leaking in the meeting room.
There is. I thought you took care of that.
Yeah.
Dan.
I was up on there, and
Or was that,
those shingles don't look so good.
I believe that
Okay.
the roof repair that Dan Williver helped with was in the teen section of the library, in the middle of the building. The leak that's in the meeting room is only within the last year.
okay. Attorney Mancuso,
Yes.
given the new information just presented, it appears to me that it would be prudent of us to make sure that that repair is made at the same time that we have the major problem corrected.
Okay.
can we pass this RFP for having the major problem corrected and go to another RFP to get the new identified leak fixed?
Should all be one.
Is the board anticipating that whatever contractor is selected in this process would do the work on both?
Well, that was going to be my next question, and that is, can we roll both of those items into this RFP?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason you can't expand the scope of work, I guess. So the question is, what additional information do you need to include in it that isn't in there? If the board wanted to proceed in approving the resolution to issue the bid, subject to, additional scopes of work to be added, in consultation with the town attorney, I could make the change and it can be issued if the board felt it appropriate. I mean, if there's wholesale revisions, I would suggest we may have to hold it to the next meeting, but I'll open it up to the board as to how much surgery is needed.
Councilman Woolaver, do you know
the metal roof should.
Do you know the
Pardon?
extent of the damage up there?
I just know water was leaking in. I didn't witness it, but it was leaking in by the TV. And if we're gonna put a metal roof on, we might as well do the whole thing, and then we don't have to worry about it. Can we just add like the entire roof instead of the 2 sections that are already on the RFP?
Do you know how much metal roofs cost?
I know how much metal roofs cost,
I'm sure you do.
but
Let's,
if we do two-thirds of it and it still leaks,
well, I didn't know that there was a leak in the back over the TV.
I would have appreciated being part of that conversation. Again, I was left out of key conversations about this. I've provided photos and nobody has come down to talk to me about it before this RFP was written. I haven't seen the RFP, and I'm really disappointed that a metal roof, a third of a metal roof is being considered instead of a full metal roof. If this was happening in any other part of the town building, particularly over other people's desks, I think a full metal roof would be considered.
Well, I would remind you that you and I have talked about this project no less than 2 times, I think 3 times. And you never once mentioned to me that there was another leak elsewhere. And my focus is on taking care of the core problem more so than putting on a new roof. Now that I know there's another leak, which has never been mentioned to me before, we can revisit that and have that repaired at the same time according to the information just supplied to us by our attorney. What I will do is seek a bid to do the whole roof versus to do the east and north side and see what the difference is.
Is that something that can be edited into this RFP so we can get this approved and get these bids out there?
According to what our attorney just said moments ago, I believe that is true.
Don?
Yeah, I think the only question I have is really the wording. If the board wants to do a comparison of cost, then I think in the scope of work, it should also be including within that a breakdown that, it's looking for, what the whole roof versus the 2/3 roof is going to look like, because otherwise you won't be able to parse out the delta.
So we can go ahead with passing.
That can be,
I mean, before Pam's capable of doing the bid, we have to we'll have to finalize the package, and so I'm going to have to make a revision. The only the question again for the board is how much of a revision needs to be made. If it's if it's minimalistic, then the board can go ahead with, the language I suggested. If it needs to be changed significantly, or the board needs to consider what that additional scope of work might look like, then there's a chance that you may need to go back and just revise it further. So I don't know the answer to that question. I'm going to really have to defer to the board members and their experience with this type of stuff as to whether there's a lot of work that needs to be done to the scope now.
Well, I can't comment because I did not know there was a leak there. So I have to defer to those who know about it.
Well,
Dan, what's your view?
the leak, well, it leaks. So the roof needs to be redone, whether it's re-roof or cover it with metal. Something needs to be done so it doesn't leak. I mean, you could do it with regular shingles, or you could do it with metal. Regular shingles are cheaper. You could go either way. Well, it needs to be repaired. So we should get a price on repairing it. I don't know if that's going to change. I'd also like to get the RFP out there so we can get a price and get moving.
Thank you.
So I'm in agreement with that, Mr. Mancuso. If we can somehow, it does not sound like it's a major revision, if we can add that comparison or whatever you were referring to, and so we can get this approved and get it out for bid tonight. That seems to be what I'm hearing. How do we make that happen?
Well, there is a resolution before the board. I don't know if anyone has a copy of it.
I do.
So let me just.
Are you getting it, John?
Yep, I'm opening
Okay.
it up. I'm just reading it to see if I
okay.
need to make any changes.
I have it.
So the first resolution paragraph, the town clerk's authorized to advertise for formal bids for the roof replacement and associated infrastructure repairs and improvements at the Rush Public Library. I don't think any change needs to be made to this resolution. I can make, as long as that town clerk is authorized to make the advertisement for the bid, I can make the change along with input from the supervisor and Councilman Wolliver, just on that minor change that would need to be made to just change the scope. So as it stands, we're providing authorization for the clerk to do what she needs to do.
I am comfortable with that. Thank you.
Would you like me to read the resolution?
I was just going to say, Councilwoman Corbin, would you read the resolution?
And this is, I just printed this today, so Mr. Mancuso, if this is not the one you're looking at, let me know.
I will.
Whereas the town seeks to solicit formal bids from contractors for roof repair. Someone else will have to read it. Can you hear me now? I'll try it again.
Yes.
Keep your thumbs up if you can hear me. All right, I'll try it again. Whereas the town seeks to solicit formal bids from contractors for roof repair and replacement work to be conducted at the Rush Public Library located at 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York, 14543, the Rush Public Library. And whereas the Governor of New York State issued Executive Order 202.11 as extended to June 6, 2020 by Executive Order 202.2, which provides for non-public openings of bids provided, however, that where practicable, public entities shall record or live stream bid openings so that the public has the opportunity to view such bid openings, to advertise for formal bids for the roof replacement and associated infrastructure repairs and improvements at the Rush Public Library. And be it further resolved that bids are to be received will be opened during a town board meeting of the town of Rush on, I don't have a date.
How many days in the I think we provided, well, let me look.
30?
Yeah, so we left it blank in the document.
I thought you and I discussed 30 days from the date of distribution.
So if we think we're going to distribute this, I mean, how long do we believe the changes will take to make? This week, early next week at the latest?
Early next week.
So if we are issuing, let's just say for easy math, let's say on or before next Wednesday, let's just use Wednesday. 30 days from the 20th would be the 19th of June, which would put us to the 24th of June, Pam?
Right. If you wanted to do the opening in the town board meeting versus.
Right.
That's what
I mean, we're going to do this
resolution-
yeah, we're going to do it via Zoom. And so if you want to do it at a board meeting, you do it on the 24th would be the next available meeting. You can do it at another time if you so choose.
I think we should move ahead as quickly as possible.
I agree.
So 19. Do it on Zoom.
The 19th or the 24th? The 19th is a Friday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
19th is
I thought we were
the
doing
Friday.
Which town board meeting were we talking about?
The
June 24th.
June 24th one.
Okay,
Is that
I go
okay?
for that. Yes.
that's
You
good.
want to
All
do
right.
opening at like
Yeah.
7:15?
Further,
7:15 p.m.
7:15? Mm-hmm. All right. Be it further resolved that bids that are received will be opened during a town board meeting of the town of Rush on June 24th, 2020 at 7:15 p.m., which may be assessed via Zoom as provided on the Town of Rush website, www.townofrush.com. So then I
second.
need a second.
I'll second.
Councilman Wilbur,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor
Aye.
Pusey,
Aye. Wow, that was a
So can
milestone.
someone, since I knew how this works, so now the town clerk puts this out and then bids come in, is that how that works?
Yes.
bids will
Yes.
come in the town hall, and I'll just
Simply
keep them on the
stated,
staff,
yes.
and then they won't be open or time-stamped. They'll be time-stamped when they come in, then they'll be
Okay.
opened in front of everybody, and then you'll be able to assess what's in the package.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I've already announced number 3 is off the agenda. That will be revisited in the future. Number 4 is the local waterfront revitalization project. That is a project that was started by Councilman Woolaver, acting at the time as Deputy Supervisor Woolaver, in a agreement with the town of Henrietta that would provide construction of a hiking path along the river from approximately the area just south of RIT up there, all the way down to Route 251.
I believe the
I was-
grant's actually to study the feasibility and
Yes,
put a plan together to do it.
that's correct. Thank you for bringing that up, Dan. This isn't to install it. It's a grant to make a complete study of the install. And I was fortunate to be able to get the water, permanent potable water, to the Monroe County Fair site under the same grant. So we're hoping that all that will work out to the benefit of Rush.
It's to study the water, and I think we already have a study for water over there done.
Well, this is a different grant, so they'll probably want to redo it. We can find out.
Yeah, Kathy Frank had a complete study done. The Henrietta town engineer worked on it.
That was, Amber, that was the study that you found in your search last week.
Right, and the deputy supervisor had found that through the BOCES committee that she was facilitating.
Yes. Any other discussion?
No?
I would like to read the resolution. Whereas New York State grant funding is available through the local waterfront revitalization program, commonly known as the LWRP, through Title 11 of the New York State Environmental Protection Fund for various planning and implementation activities undertaken by municipalities to improve and revitalize their waterfront areas. And whereas the towns of Henrietta and Rush are eligible to apply for such funding, and the LWRP, due to the Genesee River being a designated inland waterway pursuant to Article 42, Section 911 of New York State Executive Law, and whereas the town boards of Henrietta and Rush have determined that as a regionally significant natural resource corridor, the Genesee River provides substantial opportunities in both communities for increasing public use and awareness of its regional importance, improving the physical and visual access to the waterway, enhancing existing conditions on public lands along the waterfront, and providing opportunities for trails and other recreational amenities that connect the waterfront to residential, institutional, and other designations of interest to residents and visitors, as well as to other trail networks in the region. And whereas the towns of Rush and Henrietta have an interest in developing the waterfront areas in complementary ways, including the possibility of creating a Riverwalk trail from northwestern Henrietta south to western Rush, and can recognize cost savings by participating together in the planning and implementation process. Therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Rush approves the application for a local waterfront revitalization program grant under the 2019 consolidated funding application for consideration by the New York State Department of State, including committing to the 30% copay required of the town consisting of $3,000 in cash, 10% of the $10,000 required payment, and $4,500 in-kind services. Be it further resolved that the town supervisor be authorized to sign all applications, agreements, certifications, and other documents required to complete the grant application and to accept the funding and implement the Genesee River Corridor Waterfront Enhancement Plan. Be it further resolved that the town supervisor be authorized to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Henrietta detailing how the shared funding will be implemented such that the town of Rush pays the copay for any LWRP planning or implementation for lands within the town of Rush, while the town of Henrietta pays for the copay for any LWRP planning or implementation for lands within the town of Henrietta, which intermunicipal agreement shall be subject to approval of the attorney for the town. The adoption of the foregoing resolution was moved by.
I'll second it.
I had one
Second,
question.
seconded by,
Amber seconded it.
I think there's Councilman Wolver as a topic for discussion.
The terms I talked about with Steve when we went over this was
Good.
the total matching was $25,000 on the grant, and we said we would pay 25% of that, or he asked us to pay 25% of that because Rush's portion of it is about 25% of what Henrietta's is. So I put $6,250 into the budget for that. I don't know where the 30% mark came from.
well, if you look at the calculations that they came up with, the 30% mark is less than that, somewhat replaced by, what do they call it? Services in kind. There is some work that was done, that was donated by Dan Cornwall, the engineer, that's
Yep.
gonna be added toward, that. And I believe there was some highway work. I can't quite remember if that's true, but the difference between this amount and the amount you're referring to, Dan, is going to be paid by in-kind services.
Okay. It's just different than what we talked about. If it's less money, it's great.
It's less money. And there's water involved maybe for the fair site.
So Councilwoman Corbin seconded it, so I'm gonna call the roll. Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Councilman Wolver,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey, before you move on, can I just let the public know that the building department, because of the removal and the opening of construction, Building Inspector Tracy and I have talked about the procedures of how we would do it when our offices are not open. So I'm going to put instructions on our town website, on his building part of the website, and then we're going to direct people also that if they want to pay by credit card, they can also do that through our website on the miscellaneous function. So that will be available to people if they do not send a check after he has told them how much it cost into by mail or on the on the email.
Thank you. That's great news.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Corbin, would you like to read number 5, the Helios forward to the planning board, please?
I certainly will, and I will just update everyone who has followed this project. This project has gone from a 7.5 megawatts to a 5 megawatts. So their proposal for a tier 3 solar energy system has to be referred again with these revised plans to the planning board. So what I will be reading right now is a resolution of the town board of the town of Rush regarding the Helios Rush Solar Farms development of a tier 3 solar energy system at 5. We've heard this before, and we will refer it back so that they can get working on it. Whereas Rush Solar Farm 1 LLC and Rush Solar Farm 2 LLC previously applied to the town of Rush, the town, pursuant to section 120-74 of the zoning law of the town of Rush, the town zoning law, for the development of the Helios Rush Solar Farm 7.5 megawatt MW alternating current AC photovoltaic array on 36.5 plus or minus acres of an approximately 101.5 acre parcel of land located at 540 Honey Falls No. 6 Road, Rush, New York, the property. And whereas the town board of the town of Rush, the town board, previously referred the application to the town of Rush Planning Board, the planning board, for a report and recommendation on the creation of a solar energy system overlay district pursuant to section 120-74H 18B of the town zoning law. And whereas during the course of the planning board's review and in response to comments received from the town, the project was revised. The Rush Solar Farm 1 LLC submitted revised plans, the revised application, proposing the development of a single 5 megawatt facility on 25.1 plus or minus acres of the property, the project. Together with the revised Part 1 of the full environmental assessment form pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law and 6 NYCRR, Part 617, collectively referred to as SEEKR. And whereas the town board desires to refer the revised application to the planning board for a report and recommendation pursuant to the town zoning law, and notify applicable governmental agencies and other interested parties under SEEKR of the revised application. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, the clerk of the town of Rush is authorized to refer the revised application to the planning board for a report and recommendation on the creation of a solar energy system overlay district for the project for the planning board June 16th, 2020 meeting. 2, the clerk of the town of Rush is authorized and directed to notify applicable governmental agencies and other interested parties of the town board's intent to act as lead agency in connection with the SEEKR review required for the proposed action, and such notice shall invite applicable agencies and others to comment in accordance with SEEKR regulations in this regard. And 3,
If I make one, I apologize for interrupting. The third provision can be struck because we've already been installed as lead agency. So the paragraph 2 is designed to refer the revised application, which the clerk will do. We do not need the third paragraph.
therefore I am done. I will ask for a second.
I'll second that.
Councilman Corbin,
Aye.
Councilman Williver,
Aye.
Supervisor QC,
Aye. Okay, moving on to new business. Couple weeks ago, I got a phone call from a resident of Wheatland whose residential property backs up to our wooded area. And he asked me what we were gonna do about the problem of trees almost at a 45-degree angle over his kid's swimming pool. And I didn't know anything about that, so I went over and looked at it and I said, oh my goodness. So I communicated with the attorney for the town about this and I sent pictures out to the town board members. And my opinion is, it's a special situation. It's not accessible by wheeled vehicles like a tractor, maybe a little tiny one, but not a medium-sized tractor or a pickup truck. And we're gonna have to get somebody who's a climber to go in there, take those trees down. There's 2 of them. And you can probably just pile the wood, the logs or the chunks in the woods, or take them out. I don't know, whatever your desire is, but I think we should take care of this. The property is located at 87 South End Square.
I know he brought this up to Kathy Frank a while ago. And at that point, he didn't want any equipment on his yard. So it was, I think the suggestion was that he come through the Bosse's property to get over there and take the tree down, which would be immensely expensive.
Yes, I
But
agree.
he's willing to have somebody come on his property now and take care of it?
He is
It's
willing
still
to
gonna be
have,
a cost.
he is willing to have someone come on his property. He even said if all else fails, I will allow a wheeled vehicle on my property. But the slope is so steep, I don't understand how even a 4-wheel drive vehicle would make it up the slope with wood in it. So that's why I'm thinking chunk it and throw it farther in the woods.
That seems like the best solution. Sometime we should consider logging over on the Bosse's property. We got a report when we first took over the property from the state forester that the forests are overgrown and need to be thinned to make them healthy. And the town could make some money off of that. Wouldn't be a bad idea. And then we could, from the other side, we could take care of problem trees that infringe on property owners outside of Rush.
That
And
had
it's
nothing.
gonna be bad with the ash trees dying too.
Dan, I'm shaking my head. Sorry to interrupt you, Jerry, but Dan, I'm shaking my head because when I was facilitating the RRR committee, that discussion was definitely mentioned and brought up as an opportunity for revenue for the town, as an opportunity to support future growth, and then not, and like you said, the dead ash trees. I know someone mentioned that there's some pine trees back there as well, but that was definitely mentioned from the committee members.
It's beautiful back in there, but it could be better.
Oh, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Mhm.
And that had nothing to do with any agricultural leasing of that property, right, Dan? The DEC survey?
No, that was the first thing that Rich Anderson did when we took control of the property. He wanted to get an inventory of what exactly we had over there. And apparently there's 4 different forests there, the way they classified it, the DEC, and all 4 of them are overgrown. And of course that was before the emerald ash borer. So it's got to be. I mean, it can't be good.
No, not at all. All right, so do we need a resolution to move forth with hiring someone to go and remove the safety threat?
Yeah, how can we do that, John? Our insurance involved in that, or?
I guess so. Is the board has discussed a couple of different things tonight. Is it wanting to just isolate itself to taking down the one tree or trees that are an issue, or is it looking more globally to solve multiple issues simultaneously?
Right now,
I-
take down the 2 problem trees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. The 2 problem trees should be removed to get rid of the threat.
Right.
Otherwise,
Are they-
we could face a bigger liability.
My only other question was whether we verified through our existing, I think we might have chatted about this previously, but the location of those trees vis-a-vis the actual boundary lines, where they're situated.
The actual trunk, the exposed where the roots spread out to go down into the ground, that's about 6 feet from the property line onto our side.
So it's been-
John, it's a new subdivision in West Henrietta, so I'm sure the Henrietta side's been surveyed very well. Those homes are what, less than 10 years old?
5.
5?
So, I mean, if there's no issue about the location of the tree, then, I mean, certainly the board could, it's a contract that could be just, if the board wanted to sort of elicit, contractors to be able to actually provide, the, whatever the service would be, they could obtain that information and then make a decision on retaining someone to undertake it, or do you have someone in mind already?
The highway superintendent has provided me with the names of 3 climbers. You can't get equipment in there to do it. It has to be climbers, and you can't just fall it because it'll fall where you don't want it to go.
Do those climbers need to go out and check on what they believe the cost of that's going to be?
Yes,
So I think I would say you'd want to probably get that information and get the quotes from them, and then obviously discuss what that number looks like.
if the board gives me permission to get that cost estimate, I will do it.
Yes, I'm good with that, sooner than later.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I will do that and get back to you at the next meeting. Between now and then, we have a public comment period, and I invite anyone to make your comment. In this period, you can ask your question. You can ask and you will receive. Once again, I ask you to please make sure you use good judgment and treat everybody with the respect you'd like to be treated with. Thank you.
All right, so this is the order that it's going to go in, I think. And if you could just state your name and your address for Pam to record properly. So first it's going to go Jeff Werner. Then after Jeff, it's Thomas Wickerham. Then after Thomas, it will be Hans Schmidt-Henner. Then Janet Chase, Marianne Rizzo, Cheryl Lomedico. And that's it so far. So let me read that one more time for everybody. I've got Jeff Werner, Tom Wickerham, Hans Schmidt-Henner, Janet Chase, Marianne, and then Cheryl.
Thank you. You're on, Jeff.
All right. How you doing, Jerry, and the rest of the board, Amber and Dan?
Hi, Jeff.
We are doing fine.
Good, good. Everybody looks healthy and happy, and I hope Rita is okay, whatever happened to her. I guess first I want to do a little math correction. A previous speaker added up some math of 199 acres of horseshoe, and then the 2 other projects were 25, I believe for Helios, Amber, you said, and our project's about 23, so that'd be about 247 acres. And maybe my speaker cut out, but I thought the person said 350. So I just wanted to get that math corrected. So again, Jeff Warner, 8427 West Henrietta Road, Rush. Jerry, at the last board meeting, I guess I'm going to start with you. not to hammer a dead horse, but as a farmer and, you know, a small business owner, I'm constantly looking at numbers and listening to what's going on about this whole, the deficits that are starting to roll in from towns and county. I heard this morning kind of some updates. They said nationally, there's 27 million people without health care. There's over 30 million unemployed. Now, I know that number is probably changing as some states are opening up. Monroe County, Adam Bello said that there could be upwards of $120 million deficit with the county. To our west, the town of Tonawanda, $5 million deficit. Town of Stafford, upwards of a $400,000 budget gap. Avon Central School, $300,000 budget gap. I heard some towns are canceling summer road jobs and saving their money going into austerity budgets and saving their money for winter snow removal. With all that said, at the last board meeting, we talked about just a shortfall and possibly sales tax, projected sales tax. But I guess since then I thought about it, and from being on the board, you know, there's money comes in from a lot of different avenues, from the courts, library, town clerk, building, mortgage tax, and money going out the other way and added expenses. And I guess as a property owner and looking out what I hear, I have a lot of people stop in our farm stand and they're telling me they're out of work, they're self-employed, they're losing their benefits, they're getting furloughed. What are you doing in the town board as a team? And I mean this as a team. I don't care about political affiliation or what party puts you into office, but right now, working for the better of our entire community, are you getting budget updates and projections, income shortfalls from the department heads? Are you asking for those?
If I talk to Mark Davis.
I will respond first. Thank you, Dan. This COVID problem, as you can well imagine, I go to 8 supervisor meetings a week. Yes, that's right, 8 a week. And a lot of the speak there is out of frustration because there's very little direction, there's very little concrete evidence of what's going to happen that goes on in those meetings. At the same time, there's a lot of chat about a 20% shortfall in sales tax. And there, as you said, Jeff, there are many sources of revenue throughout a year. And I got to tell you that I've spoken with Dan Klimek as late as late last week, and he continues to assure me, and I have seen the numbers, that he has produced for 2020 a very ultra-conservative budget. And based on the rumor that we hear, not on the fact, but on the rumor, because there's no fact really coming out yet. Based on the rumor, I believe the figure he used was like about a $5,000 delta from where we are to where we might have to go. If that's the case, that's wonderful. I'm glad we didn't put more stock into sales tax revenue and some of the other things that happen. So I'm going to say right now, today, we are in good shape as a municipality. I can't speak for 6 months from now because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know when the COVID is going to, the impact of that is going to stop. And we don't know what the impact of everything will be on sales tax. Right now, we look good.
Okay, well, I guess as a follow-up to that, and this will be my last question, is I agree, the numbers aren't out there. It's projections. You keep hearing about projections. But I guess what I want to hear is that as a town board, you have a plan A or a plan B. So 2 or 3 months from now, we're not waiting till September or October, or November, and realizing that we have a budget gap or a shortfall. I guess addressed as soon as possible, as soon as those numbers start rolling in from the county. Is there any way to start pressing the county for quicker updates? And I guess the bottom line is I realize we have very little commercial, very little industrial property tax, and the true income for this town is on the shoulders of the working families that have, you know, a regular house and a few acres of property. And there's some hurting people in this town that I'm hearing from. They have not gotten their unemployment, or it's being stalled because of New York State saying they don't have the money. We hear from Cuomo all the time that the state is broke. And I guess as a town, I'd rather hear the town board say that, you know, we are ready to make cuts as needed, or we have X amount in savings to alleviate any increase in tax, because it's just not the town. You know, as everybody knows, the town tax is actually less than the school tax, and if it's a double whammy to taxpayers in this town, it's going to be a tremendous hardship to a lot of working families. So I guess back to, do you have a plan A or plan B in place, or are you working on it so you can implement that when the time comes?
Before Amber and Dan respond, I want to bring up something I failed to mention to you the first time I spoke. And that is, there are, as you said, there are so many unknowns, so many unknowns. One of the big unknowns is grant reimbursements for costs derived from being involved in the COVID crisis. We don't know what they're going to be yet. We keep hearing about them, but we don't know how much money is going to be available. I heard last week $1.5 million, and called around to see, well, how do you apply for it? Well, we don't know yet. So that may be a relief valve. I don't know that, but I wanted to bring it up so that if we bring it up in the future, it won't be a blindside to you. I'm hoping that there is a big distribution of money at that level, but we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, all right. I guess back to my first question, I'm going to renege here and say, so have the department heads been giving you any projections or real numbers on their shortfalls in the last 6 or 8 weeks?
Oh my gosh, must be your red shirt, Jeff. It's taken my mind off it. We're about to go into the budget process. The annual budget process will be starting in just a few weeks. And it's going to be during that process that I hope all the town board members remember what we're in right now. We might not be in it in a few weeks, but I hope we remember what we're going through right now. And not that we're in trouble, but the threat of trouble is there, and that's just as important to me. Dan, I'm sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
I talked to Mark David yesterday, and he's predicting income from county jobs is everything should stay just as it was last year. Income should be good. Courts, of course, are closed. We can't, no projection on that yet. That's another source of income. Those are the two I know about. But Mark says everything okay.
Okay, all right. And then there's library, town clerk, things like that. But and maybe it is too early to tell, but I guess I'm I'm
I know,
cringing.
Yeah.
It's unknown.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Jeff,
thank you.
Jeff, we have been reaching out to the supervisors and department heads for their input. So we've been keeping them in the loop.
Okay, thanks, Amber.
Yeah, and just think of one thing, for example, just to get your head around. Look at the pavilion behind the town hall. That pavilion has been rented 2 and 3 times per weekend for a whole year. Well, we haven't had that in the last 3.5 months. That's not a lot of money, but it's money that we don't have. And that's a variable that we've gonna have to deal with.
Right. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, Tom. And then Janet. Tom, where are you? Tom, there you are. I found you. It's like a fun little game.
Yeah, on my screen, I'm right next to you, but that's another story. Yeah.
All right. Do you have video?
Yeah, hang on. Oh, I thought it was on earlier. Here it comes. There we
There
are.
you go.
Sorry. Thank you. I just wanted to back up what I said at the last meeting that Dr. Morelli mentioned earlier. His description of me was, I think, what you might call accurate. I did serve the state for nearly 33 years in an environmental regulatory capacity. So looking at laws and regulations and their impacts, good and bad, kind of comes naturally to me nowadays. First, I didn't try to quote anyone. I just stated that the comments that were made toward Dan were derisive and denigrating. Beyond that, as Carl Ast said earlier, and it was accurate, that the new Article 23 law overrides Article 10. And when we're dealing with Horseshoe, it does take away any local involvement in the review process. Under Article 10, we had a little bit, and that didn't go very far. But the new review board that's been established has no local participation, and it does have the ability to override any town laws. It can even go to the point where it's going to tell us how to tax these things. And further, the town didn't and remains, and it remains true that the town has no decision-making capacity when it comes to these Article 10 or Article 23 solar installation. What that means is we're not going to get the application. We can't decide whether that's issued or not. But really, my point continues that all of these personal attacks about whether a person is for or against Horseshoe is just getting very tiresome under these circumstances. All right, John, your thoughts about home rule are dead on. I'm not advocating for Horseshoe by saying that, you know, it's the way I'm seeing it, it's pretty inevitable. You know, and it's just what the legislature's given us. It's a law of the state right now. If you want to fight it, call your legislature. That's all I've got to say. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. All right, it goes Tom, Janet, Mary Ann, Cheryl, and then John Kamen.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I thought Hans was before me.
He messaged that he is going to do some additional research and then get back to us. But
Okay, great.
Hans, if you want to add in, just let me know.
Okay, great. I have fairly short comment about the brief discussion about taking down more than just the 2 trees that were leaning on a person's property, but starting to call the forest. And I have a different viewpoint. A great deal of the forest, at least through the 100 acres and moving toward the Bosse's property, is old growth forest. It's beautiful the way it is. There's vernal pools that are rare. It's a remarkable place. So I would suggest that before we just start saying, okay, let's go make some money and cut down trees, that we take a look at everything from a more holistic point of view. We've had people from Cornell, New York State Parks, and many other places come and marvel at this area. So some of you that mentioned that you haven't been back there for a long time, it'd be good to take a look at it before you start thinking about what needs to be taken down. You're right that there's dead ash trees, but you have to be careful. The Owatka Creek Park did a bunch of beautiful plantings along their Owatka Creek there, which is almost like a river. And then people decided to come in and take down ash trees, and they knocked down half the new plantings. So it just has to be a coordinated effort, coordinated hopefully with the Rush Recreation and Park Association, to be sure that we're not taking out things that will be something that we are a true asset to our parkland. Thank you. And by the way, 257 Fishel Road, Pam.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Janet.
you, Janet.
Hans he came back in the game. Are you there?
Yes,
Okay, there you are.
trying to start my video. I can't start my video, so for some reason. Oh, I know why. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry. Technical glitch.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I was not gonna talk, but I just wanted, my topic was actually on the wooded area next to the river, and it had to do with extending, actually, the thought anyway of extending that path or whatever you described, Jerry. I think a couple years ago I mentioned to the recreation committee there that, you know, there's this large, huge chunk of woods south of 251 that runs along Industry, along the river, all the way to the Lehigh Valley Station Trail, the walking trail, the railroad trail. If you look at Google Maps, you can easily see what I'm talking about. And in fact, I was just looking at it, and in fact, I saw the swimming pool you're talking about, Jerry, and the tree over it. So Google Maps is kind of amazing. So I just thought, for, you know, the long-term horizon, I would like people to consider, or whoever, you know, the thought of approaching the state or industry of, say, collaborating with them and turning that forested area, it's a huge area, into like a forever wild area as well, just so nobody sells it and makes money out of it, so forth. I think the state owns it, and they gave us the 2 parcels, so I don't know, you know, if they're approachable for the other parcel or not. But what brought me back in here was Janet's comment. I would echo her comment about foresting that area. And I have some personal experience in Pennsylvania with some family land, and my cousins have family land. And, you know, we left ours completely virgin. We let Mother Nature take over. And yeah, it was a little bit messy and stuff. But 100 years later, and when I say we, I mean my great-grandfather in the 1800s, we have these most beautiful virgin cherry of anybody around. And it's a gorgeous forest. Some of my cousins forested theirs and tried to prune it up, getting rid of the dead trees and so forth. And it's absolutely correct. What happens is you can mess it up almost as easy as you can prune it up. So I would be very, very cautious about the idea of foresting that area. So I echo Janet's comments. I would certainly think very deeply and consult with that committee before you're doing that, because it makes a mess even to take out a few trees. Thank you.
Hans? Hans, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Yeah, were you in your initial remarks referring to that part of land owned by the state that lies between the river and the railroad tracks and runs from 251 all the way down to Gola, I believe it is. Was that
Well,
the first part? Because the part Janet's talking about is the mature forest north of that, which runs from 250, well, not 251, but
okay, let me clarify. I'm sorry to cut you
okay.
off.
Thank you.
I am talking about two different tracts of woodland. And what I was saying is my original comment had to do with the thought of, at some point in the future, considering annexing the part south of 251 that's owned by industry right now by the state. However, my comments had directly to do with the Rush Riverside Reserve, which I believe my pictures are still on the Rush website. But it has absolutely to do with the 100 acres there. And the part that you were speaking of, the north end of that has a tree that's leaning over somebody's pool. And throughout that area, yeah, there are some dead trees. There's going to be some dead tree fall. And this is natural in a forest. So I am talking about I think it's 100 acres north of 251, starting at the railroad station and going north. There's the access to it with the trail that goes underneath the railroad tracks. I've been there a number of times. And that's the woods I'm talking about. I think, for years, I know that I've been at odds with some of the people on the committee about the farmland. I know in the past I recommended pruning up the ditches, but I was 100% with them with respect to not logging the 100 acres.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hans. I just wanted to let you know that that land cannot be used for any other purposes besides farming or recreation and farming or ancillary uses. So it won't be sold
Okay,
or
well, thank you.
destroyed. You're welcome.
Oh,
All right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The misperception is I'm worried about industry selling the tract of land south of 251.
I'll tell them not to.
I would like to entertain the idea that Rush owns that land someday. It would quadruple the forested area beyond the 100 acres.
Hans, that land you just referred to, is that where the old landfill is?
Yeah.
Yes, if you look at Google Maps, you can see the old landfill. There's an old road
Okay.
there. I happen to know that land because many years ago I hunted there with some friends, and they got permission from the prison guards to hunt there. It's a beautiful tract. There's tons of deer in there, and it's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Janet already went. So Mary Ann, Cheryl, John, Carol, Ralph. Mary Ann, oh, there you are. Mary Ann, you're on mute. All right, you gotta start over, Mary Ann, sorry.
Can you hear me? Can you
I
hear me?
can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. 25 Stoll Road, Marianne Rizzo. Hans, I want to say thank you for your appreciation of the forest and the old growth forest. I really appreciate your comments. And I just would like to attempt to make a couple of clarifications to everybody and then state a few opinions. Now, the first clarification is the division of land between the 100 acres and the BOCES property. And when I was originally on the BOCES committee for 4.5 years, we thought that the old growth forest was part of the BOCES land. And that would include all up to South End Square there. But upon closer, research, we discovered that there's the 100 acres is all just west of the railroad and to the river. So the railroad tracks and the river, that becomes the perimeter of the 100 acres. So that was a revelation, because so there's the 48 lower acres, which is a lot of the farmland. And then there's the old growth forest, which goes all the way up north to South End Square to the neighbors that you're referring to. So that's one. The other clarification is that the 100 acres is deeded as parks and recreation. And the BOCES land is deeded as parks, recreation, and ancillary uses. And ancillary refers to, that's the BOCES land. Ancillary refers to in support of whatever was mentioned before. So an ancillary use could be for park and recreation, could be building a shed for the tractor that's going to help mow the land, or for the recreation on the land. That would be ancillary to park and recreation. So those are the two. So yeah, there's a new map that the Rush Recreation Park Association we found through looking at the deeds that would include the whole strip of the river land just west of the railroad. And that land is beautiful, and it does have the vernal pools, and it's an old growth forest, and it's got a climax forest. It doesn't have a lot of ash trees, and it doesn't have a lot of pine trees. And I wonder, and I think one of the reasons it doesn't have a lot of pine trees is because it does have a lot of black walnut, and even has some tulip trees. It's very beautiful. And so the thought of actually making money on one of our beautiful assets is just hard for me to hear. So and it's what so to combined with the Rush Riverside Refuge, which is the BOCES property, and the 100 acres, this is our Mendon Ponds of Rush. I mean, this is something that we can make. We're going to hopefully get the trail through there, and I think access to the 100 acres and to the old growth forest, with partnering with Henrietta, it's just going to be something that's going to be so beautiful. And we've been writing the grants to get trees from the DEC, and Bruce Howlett's donating 100 trees to us too, which we thought was a very, very beautiful thing to do, and we appreciate that so much to our town and to the 100 acres. So I just want you to, I'd love to, 25 Stoll Road. And I've given you my address. I guess I can't give you my number, but I'll go for a walk with anybody that wants to go there. I think you'll find it to be very beautiful. And so now's a good time to go. So, and we can keep 6 feet apart. So I just want to say that. And I also want to say that I really appreciate your approach to those 2 trees. The Rush Henrietta Rush Recreation Park Association has been to that site over a year ago. We were aware of it. We have pictures of those trees, and they are leaning. And I appreciate the fact that you want to deal with climbers. I think it's going to be the least intrusive and the least disturbance to the forest. So thank you for that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mary Ann, it's always a pleasure to hear your perspective. Thank you for sharing. All right, after Mary Ann, it is Cheryl, John.
I'm here.
Carol. Hi, Cheryl.
Good evening, everybody. I live at 95 Woodruff Road in Rush. One of my main comments is, speaking of trees, but it's minor, but I've noticed along West Henrietta Road between Fishel and West Rush Road, and West Rush Road between West Henrietta and 390 underpass or overpass, there are lots of trees that are broken, like huge branches leaning on the lines. And I believe if I saw on the report, because I heard the fire alarms go off, there was a branch on fire on one of the lines the other day. Whose responsibility is it to go through the power lines and trim those tree branches back? Is it the power or National Grid? Is it Frontier? Is it Spectrum? Or is it the town?
The power companies and the communications companies who own those lines have contracts with, like, I think it's Lindy, and there's a couple of other companies that go around with bucket trucks and trim those trees to ensure that the trees do not come in contact with the line.
There's several. There's several.
You're describing either something that hasn't been touched yet or that the crew did after lunch. I don't know which it was. But I would call the power company.
Call the power company, because I did that. I believe I did that once, and they're like, okay, and still it's after the several storms that we've had, they're still there. So, and like I think
You know what I'll do?
There was a fire call, and I was just curious.
I will call the power company.
Go ahead.
Before I do, I will make sure I know where you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, just pretty much from 251 on West Henrietta Road all the way to West Rush, and you turn down, and there's a couple big branches leaning and pulling the lines down.
We'll get them out of there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. All right. Jerry,
Yes.
along the same topic, there's a tree down on the east side of West Henrietta is on telephone line. So we can give you, we can just make sure that you have all the correct locations from Cheryl, and it looks like from Carl when you do call. All right, John, and then Carol Ralph. I'm sorry, Jerry, what did you say?
Deputy.
Oh. Go ahead, John, sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Supervisor. I'm John Cammon. I live at 7730 East River Road, and wanted to comment on a couple of things that were discussed tonight. I think what was, this dovetails off Mr. Wickerham's comments. What was disappointing about Dan Wolliver and what went on, and I think what was trying to be expressed in a prior meeting, was somewhat misstated. And what was disappointing was that we had spent over a year crafting a tight local solar law with a lot of input at various meetings with Councilman Wolliver and others, as well as at various town board meetings. And right up through the election, Mr. Councilman Wolliver made it clear that he was not a proponent of large-scale industrial solar and didn't want a horseshoe solar type project. And again, conveniently, after the election was over, all of a sudden he's had a change of heart. And now that the votes are counted and he's got 4 years in office, now all of a sudden he is a proponent of it. I think Mr. Wickerham, his comments, I think he's mistaken or needs to be corrected. Under the new act passed by the legislature, large-scale renewable energy projects will apply to a newly created Office of Renewable Energy Siting under Section 94C of the law. And contrary to Mr. Wickerham's comments, at least as I read it, there is still plenty of input. Let me back up before I even go to the new law. As I understand Horseshoe Solar right now, it's under Article 10. So Article 10 has all sorts of requirements that give local citizen input as well as municipality input. And even under the new law, under Section 94C, not all the regs have been promulgated yet, and they're going to be promulgated over the next year. So no one can say at this point exactly what the new law will contain, nor will it be clear in which vein Horseshoe Solar is going to proceed. But let me just read you a couple of points that I think evidence the fact that municipalities do have input still. ORES must determine that an application is complete within 60 days, and the developer must submit proof that it consulted with the local municipalities about the procedural and substantive requirements of any applicable local law. Within 60 days after the Section 94C application is deemed complete, ORES will publish draft permitting conditions for public comment. Members of the public, as well as municipalities, have 60 days to respond. If public comments, including comments from a municipality, raise a substantive and significant issue, then ORES must proceed to an adjudicatory hearing to hear arguments and consider evidence. Municipalities who receive notice of a 94C application shall submit a statement to ORES indicating whether the project complies with local law. If the municipality states the project does not comply and ORES decides not to hold an adjudicatory hearing, then the Department of State must hold a public statement hearing in the affected municipality. So quite contrary to what's being promulgated at this meeting, that there's no say whatsoever for citizens or local municipalities, at least as I read it, not true. There's many ways in which municipalities can be involved under Article 10 and under Section 94C, and therefore we have to be equally vigilant as a town and hopefully as a town board to try to see what we can do to curtail this industrial-sized solar facility in a rural community like Rush. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
John, while you're still there, can you let everyone in the room know where you found the information that you cited?
That was under the law, and there was a section of, there was a piece written by Hodgson Russ on the law as well.
Thank you.
I can also provide to the town. I've done a legal alert also, and I could certainly provide that. Has a section of the law and some of the highlights that are contained in there in terms of Article 10 and some of the differences. And so it's a public document. I can certainly make that available for the town if it wishes to pass it along to.
And are you in agreement, John, that there is local input as well as municipal input?
Yeah. I mean, on the face of the legislation, there is I can't, obviously dispute that there is local input. I think I will reserve judgment in terms of the import of that review when the regulations are adopted, and I can understand exactly the ramification it may or may not have on the local municipality. But at least, on its face, there are similarities to Article 10, and there's also some differences.
Okay.
Thank you. Can John Mancuso put the info on the website?
I can't do it myself, but I can pass it along to someone that can if that's what the town board would like to do.
Please.
Thank you,
Please do
John. If you
that.
could pass it to Sue Knight, that would be helpful. And then it will be public for the residents.
If anyone has LinkedIn, they could also go to my firm pages. It is probably still sitting there too if they wanted to beat it to the town website.
Thank you. Look at that teamwork. I love it. All right, last but not least, the caring Carol Ralph.
Thank you, Victoria. I just had a couple brief comments. Mary Ann partially covered what I wanted to say about the 100 acres, the forest back there. We were working to get that officially designated as an old growth forest. I do have to do some follow up on that, but I did have some conversations with the Old Growth Forest Network. So we are still looking for that designation. And that is I believe it's a Maple Beach forest, according to Mark Gooding, who is the DEC person who provided the report for that area. So there are very few dead ash trees in there. And I did also want to say that when Mark Gooding and I had a conversation, he did indeed make recommendations that if it was going to be maintained as a woodlot, that it was overgrown. But those recommendations were as when he was providing a report as to what a money-making woodlot should look like, not what a forest should look like, and there was no need to do any tree removal just to maintain a natural forest. So I just wanted to make that clarification. And I also wanted to say that I reported that large tree branch on West Henrietta Road to the National Grid. Originally, they did come out and look at it and determined that it belonged to the cable company. And I contacted Time Warner, and Time Warner said they would not remove a tree on someone else, even a branch on their wires if it was on somebody's property, that they just don't do that. So I just wanted to pass that along, but National Grid was very responsive, and they have a pretty easy to access website to let them know. I think I even sent them a picture from my phone. That's it for me. Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
Carol.
you, Carol.
You said
Can
Time Warner?
Yeah, it was a cable company.
Spectrum.
Is it? I was gonna say, is it
Oh,
Spectrum
yeah.
now?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Spectrum. Yep.
If I can just thank those people that have the knowledge of the 100 acres and all the woods and the information that they were able to educate all of us on tonight, whether you're in favor of it or you're not, or you're neutral. I think they have brought a lot of valuable information for all of us here tonight. So I just wanted to thank them for that.
I second that.
I third it.
I go for fourth.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone else would like to speak?
There's nobody in the chat.
No one in the chat. Well, then what I will do is thank everyone. I will second the comment about the knowledge being conveyed tonight by Town Councilwoman Corbin. I thought I knew a lot about that property, but there were 2 or 3 points made tonight that I did not know. So thank you very much. And Councilwoman Corbin, thank you for bringing it up. And Deputy Supervisor Mazzetti, thank you for being number 3 on that issue. Tonight, I thought was a very, very nice meeting. Everybody was very civil and very informative, and it was great. I appreciate it a lot. And I guess we can now adjourn. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, everyone.
Everyone be
Good night.
safe. Remember to
Thank you.
social distance. Remember to social distance. Wear your masks.
You got it.